Okay, so Susie came in this morning. She said, I know, I want to talk about something. I want to talk about fitness and relationships, and basically the bottom line is that women feel a responsibility to stay fit, to stay a certain way, to look a certain way, to keep their man.
Absolutely.
Like you need to stay looking the same way as when you met him throughout the whole relationship?
Well, that's a double-edged sword, because here's the thing. Two people, skinny people, marry in high school, and then they begin to bloom. So because then they get comfortable. But what happened was, we don't stay the same person we were when they fell in love with us.
True.
So on the one hand, just being fit is a great thing, but the danger is when you're fit because you're afraid to lose your spouse or your mate. That's a humongous pressure. And I know for a fact, a very wealthy woman was weighed naked by her husband every morning for their entire marriage.
That's just controlling craziness.
And she was like a size 0.
I think you're talking about two different issues here. I think one is just wanting to stay physically fit,
Yes.
and the other is having this insecurity that your mate doesn't love you enough that he would leave you or she would leave you if you gained weight. I think that's two completely different issues.
I think women have a lot of pressure, but why don't men have that same pressure? Because once you get married, I feel like women have that desire to stay skinny for their spouse, but
So
guys,
when you and Tony
when they're
met-
like 40 or I don't know what age, start relaxing a little bit, not going to the gym as much, sitting on the
right.
couch
That
a
it's a
little more.
double standard
But women, yeah,
sometimes.
it is a little bit.
Do you feel that pressure? I mean, Tony, of course, his job is to stay physically
Yeah,
fit. Like, I mean, they don't
sure.
call them love handles for nothing.
No.
Like, it's because you're in love.
It's very true.
People always gain weight. I think when we start dating,
I gained like 10 pounds when I started dating Tony, because you're just going out to eat all the time and hanging out,
drinking
and
wine and having dessert and chocolate covered
and then
strawberries.
Your pants start getting tight, and you're like, crap, what happened there? And you're like, okay, yeah, those pizzas.
No,
It's a good sign that you're in a healthy
Dinner, yes.
relationship.
The same thing happened to me when Scott and I started dating. I mean, 10 pounds, like that.
Yeah.
Because, you're happy. And so I'm just going to talk about this now. We can, because it's like, it was like last week's little disagreement.
geez.
But no, and it's really, I think it's important to talk about, because, like you said, it's two different issues. It's like wanting to stay fit for yourself because you'll feel better and you'll feel more self-confident and all those things. And then wanting to stay fit because you've got somebody controlling and saying, you do this and you do that. And I think that the thing that I learned, that Scott and I both learned about this, because this subject came up, I guess it was last week. And he was saying something about, like, basically, when are you going to get back to the gym? And I was like, oh, how can you possibly say, I really took offense to it. And then he was like, after I was done, verbally attacking him, he's like, hey, you talk about it. You're the one who says that, you've gained weight, you don't feel as good as you did, summer's coming up, you're the one who talks about it. And I'm just wondering when you're going to actually do something about it instead of talking about it. And I was like, I hated that actually made sense.
Right.
And then the more I thought about it, I was like, well, he has a good point. I should shut up about it unless I'm going to do something
And
about
I
it.
think, too, when you find that spouse or significant other, that you tend to want to look good for them.
Sure.
Even if you, at the time, are gaining a little bit of weight.
But here's the deal that I want to ask. I want to ask this, and this, I'm not implying anything, but you look great, you're thin, you look great, you've been married, and then he finds somebody thinner, or he plays around.
I agree
Well,
with
then
that.
that's a whole other issue that has nothing to do with your
Okay.
weight. That has to do with his infidelity.
But there you've spent all this time trying to pressure up, relax, when you always don't feel like doing it.
That's true.
Well, I think if a man marries you and you're 130 pounds and you look fantastic, and a couple years down the line you're 230 pounds, that's a problem.
That's right.
You're not the person he married anymore.
It is.
Or she, if it's the other way around.
When I think people do a great job of kind of deceiving people, like when they're in that early stage of like dating, when it's like, oh, I'm always 117 pounds,
Right.
and I always look perfect, and I always have a perfect tan, and I always wear high heels,
And I always order salad.
always eat salad, and then it's like, the skeletons come out of the closet, and it's like, I love fried chicken, and this is the skinniest I've ever been, and I haven't eaten
usually
in
go to the
6
gym
months.
ever.
Yes, and so sometimes I think girls are to blame for this because they make it seem like, oh, I love staying physically fit, when really, we hate it. Like,
it's
there's
not fun.
nothing fun about going to the gym. I'm not one of these people that will ever be like, oh, endorphins make me happy and I love it and it puts me in such a good. No, I hate it, but I
Yeah.
do
You
it
have-
because
No, wine
Right.
makes me happy.
I wanna
That's
tell you
what makes me
something. I wanna
happy.
tell you
Wine and food make me really happy.
I want to tell you something, and this kind of goes in line with this. I lost a friend yesterday. They were married, wait a minute. They were married 65 years, about 65 years. She always stayed fit. She never talked negative. She never talked about other people. She never put people down. She smiled all the time. She was funny, great. He was the same way. 65 years. They have 5 children.
Wow.
When she passed, he was holding her in the bed, and they never played around.
Wow, that's really.
They
That
never,
reminds
they
me-
never, they didn't. They
that's
never
rare.
played around.
That reminds me of the movie The Notebook.
Yeah, when they're holding each
Yes.
other when they die.
It's so sweet. So there's something to be said for everlasting love no matter what.
There is, but I was going to say, I was reading an article this weekend on the Huffington Post, and it talks about, oh, Stuart's bringing you tissues. What's a Monday without a good cry, right? No, I was reading the Huffington Post this weekend, and they talked about couples are now doing first dates at the gym, which I think just sounds awful.
I wouldn't go out with somebody.
But
that
imagine
made me
if
go to
what
the
if you
gym.
met this hot guy and you met him out and about, or you met him at a function or something, and then he's like, okay, I'm gonna pick you up on Thursday night.
We're gonna go work out.
And he shows up and you're in like a cute first date outfit, and he's like, go back in and put on some yoga pants and some Nikes and pull that hair in a ponytail. I'd be like, are you joking? Like, just leave.
You know what's funny though? Is I do
maybe not for a first date, but I think I don't know that there's really.
I think there's something to be said for couples that work out together,
Gym has
but
become more of like a bar too. Like I feel like a lot of couples meet at the gym.
Yeah.
And I know that's not what you're talking about, but it does become kind of a pickup joint.
It is a
it is a
social
pickup
place.
joint, which is why I don't work out at any of those trendy
There's
gyms.
nothing wrong with working out if you're working out for you.
Yes.
If you're working out for them, that's when it gets to be.
And that was exactly the misunderstanding that Scott and I had, was
Right.
that I said, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it for me like I always have. Basically, I was like, don't tell me what to do,
Right.
because I felt like it was kind of controlling. He's like, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just telling you, shut up about it unless you're going to do something about
Right.
it.
Now, did you feel pressure after having the baby that, like, oh my gosh, I have to get back in shape, like, because I have to go to functions and I have to be seen a certain, like, because you've always had a great body. I mean, you did pageants.
I think.
Does anybody know you're married to Tony Romo? Did we?
We talked about it last
Yes.
week. Candace
Now you
Romo,
do.
everyone.
I think you're so, I don't want to say fat, but you're pregnant for so long that you're just so ready to be back in your normal clothes
Yeah.
and back in your normal stuff. That was more your motivation. Yeah, you want to get, slender, but it's really just because you're so sick of wearing maternity clothes and you're just sick of feeling like, carrying around all that extra weight. But
Yeah.
I have to be honest, like after I had, as soon as Hawk was born, it wasn't like I was like, I'm going to the gym. Like, you kind of are exhausted and you're getting used to this new baby that you're just like, I'll kind of let things go for a little while. I felt like it was a month after that I was like, okay, I need to start actually working on this.
Yeah.
Don't they say that breastfeeding, like, you can burn
Yeah.
nice?
It definitely helps.
I dropped weight with that.
It definitely helped a
Oh,
lot.
I'll definitely be on board with that.
You're right.
This was another interesting article that I found. This woman is under fire right now about the same subject. She is saying, though, that it is every wife's duty to look good for other men.
I kind of agree with that.
I think women look good for other women.
I think we dress for other women.
That's
We dress for other women. If we were dressing for men, we'd walk around naked all the
But
time.
this is saying, she's saying that if you want to keep your man, and
See,
that
there
it's
it
important
is.
to look
If
good
you
for.
want to keep your
yeah,
man.
for other men. She says, remember, if he married you, he must have fancied you once. And she says that's why you have to remind him that other men find you sexy. Otherwise, you dent his delicate male ego by suggesting he's not worth scrubbing up for. I have to say, I know this is making a lot of women angry, but I sort of agree with that point.
Men want a woman that can be not a trophy wife. There's a difference. But men want, I think, their girl to be proud of. Like, they
I was
want to be
just
able
gonna
to
say proud,
walk
yeah.
into a restaurant or walk into a charity event or like meet up with all their dudes and be like, yeah, my wife's hot.
Yes,
like,
I completely-
She's super sexy. And I think that guys, that's a part of their pride. That's part of their ego.
And guys are visual, and we're told that from day one, so it's not a big shock.
Did they stay with
Ooh,
you
good
because
point.
you look good, or because you're fun and deep and their best friend? Because after all
I
the
think
beauty
it's the
I think
wears
that's why
away,
they fall in love with you. I think that their initial attraction to you to ask you out on that date is, oh, she's cute, I like her, she's hot. You know, that's their initial reaction to even want to talk to you to even get there.
But then it
Do you
turns to a
think?
deeper love, and I hope that the
Right.
latter is true.
Yeah, I do too.
But who doesn't love hanging out with like a hot person, you know?
Well, hey, there are a lot of good-looking people that aren't really very hot, intellectually or mentally. You know, some of them are dumb as a board.
Well, I was going.
I have a theory on this.